just being vulnerable, being authentic. That's all they want. They don't want to constantly be asked about all the surface level things in their lives. It doesn't interest them.
N-
That's not their world. That's your world.
Yeah. And also, I think from a parent's perspective, is that you're not going to figure all this out in one conversation.
Hmm.
Okay. You guys aren't going to be super connected the first time that you communicate. Really try this.
Yeah.
But what happens is that you get started and you do a little bit, you have a little conversation, and they share a little bit, and you're open minded and you're curious, and they pick up on that. Welcome to the Extraordinary Purpose Podcast, where we explore some of the truly difficult questions and challenges that parents and their families face every day. Whether it's the sometimes painful process of parenting teens and young adults, navigating relationships with your partner and children, or you discovering your purpose in relationship with yourself, we will bring heartfelt and vulnerable conversations to the table to support and empower you. Our mission is to help you create a lifestyle full of love, passion, adventure, and influence. Here we go. Yes, we are back with another episode of the Extraordinary Purpose Podcast. If you're here and we're here, that means that today's going to be a pretty good day, right, Aaron?
Amazing day.
I'm Chris, and as always, I'm here with the beautiful and amazing Aaron Vertis. What's up, sweetheart?
Aaron Vertis, what's going on, honey?
No, not much. How's everybody doing today? It is so good to be back with you. We are back from spring break.
Yeah.
We had a pretty good spring break. You had a great spring break.
Yeah, it was really good.
Yeah.
It was fun.
What are a couple of words that you would use to describe your spring break with your kids?
Oh my gosh. Lots of connection.
Yeah.
A lot of laughing,
Yeah.
especially with Skylar. And just a lot of awareness.
Oh.
It was my first cruise, believe it or not. Chris and I are such beach people that we've just never had a pull to go on a cruise. And before we met, neither one of us
Yeah.
really have. So I went with my son, who's a senior, River, and his friend, his best friend, and a couple other buddies, and one set of other parents went with us. So I went just to check it out. I'm not a cruise person, I've decided. It was very crowded, very hectic, but we had a lot of fun at the end of the day.
That's all that matters.
Had a lot of fun. It was really good, and it was special to be able to do that for River his
Yeah.
senior year.
And I had an opportunity to take my youngest son, William, to Chicago for 3 days, 2.5, 3 days. And same thing. It was all intentionally to get some quality time with him,
Mm-hmm.
quality conversations. Him and I love taking road trips.
Yeah.
I love road trips. I always
I
have.
love road trips. See, that's my jam.
And it was just one of those opportunities because you have conversations
Mm-hmm.
that you don't often get a chance to have.
Yeah.
And you get a chance to have fun and just be more lighthearted and do something that you're interested in. Him and I went to a basketball game and went to a history museum and just things that we're interested in. And of course, you're doing those things and it facilitates other conversations and
Mhm.
things like that. And so just overall, a really good time.
Yeah, and I think this is just not planned at all, but a perfect segue into our topic today.
It
Because
is.
today we're talking about how to enter your teen or young adult's world, how
Yeah.
to enter their world without trying to pull them into ours
Mhm.
and without pushing them away. And I think what we both just described was, even though the cruise wasn't necessarily my thing and it was really expensive, but it was just not something at the end of the day, I was like, why did we do this? I went into River's world with his friends and his friends' parents and just kind of let myself be there. And because I did that, I got a chance to connect with him in a different way. And we had some incredible conversations. And I think the same thing with you and William. You did something just for him. Like, we could have easily taken them on a vacation we wanted to go on.
Yeah.
And that's just one way that we can be in their world.
Yeah. And I think that what really brought us to today's conversation for all of you is that everybody we talk to, and this is us including, we're afraid. We're afraid of what's going on with our kids. We're worried for them. It doesn't matter how good they're doing or if you're completely disconnected from them. There is just that fear that comes from wanting the best for your children. There is a natural disconnection that comes with kids getting older, becoming
Mhm.
teenagers and young adults. They go from living in our world when they're young 24/7, 365, where we have control and we have say and we dictate everything that goes on in their lives.
Mhm.
To all of a sudden, there is this incredible and sometimes painful transition where they leave our world and slowly transition, or quickly, I think,
Yes.
which is probably the case, very quickly transition into their world, and then they shut the door. And then we have no visibility to what's going on inside that world, hence the fear.
That was beautiful, honey.
Oh,
That
thank
was
you.
just really well described. And it's true. That's exactly right on. And that leaves so many parents that we talk to that come to us with lots of questions and
Yeah.
feeling hopeless and feeling and living in that fear is I just feel so disconnected. And I'm so
Yeah.
afraid that I'm going to lose that love and that contact with them. Right. And
Yeah.
I know Chris feels that way about his oldest son often. And
I
I'm
do.
starting to feel that way a little bit more. Ben's a year older than River. And
Yeah.
I see it like it's starting to happen just a little bit more. River has a girlfriend now, and he's starting to cultivate more and more of his own little island in his
Yeah.
world. And not so much shutting me out. And I think that's how we feel as parents is they're just shutting us out and they don't want us to be a part of what's going on. They're purposely keeping us at bay. And I don't think
Mhm.
that's it. They just get all consumed with what's happening in their inner world. And the truth is, and we're going to get to this part of it in a few minutes, is that it's not always our place to be a
Right.
big part of their inner world all the time. And we should not. And I don't say shoulds a lot, but I will here. We should not be trying to force our way into their world all the time.
Yeah, and I think that especially in the moment, or even a lot of the people that we're parents that we talk to on a regular basis, they come into it. They want to fix the situation. They want to control the situation. They want to do everything possible to make sure that their kid is okay, that they're going to do well in the future.
Mhm.
And so, with that being said, we have to readjust perspective and readjust expectations in terms of what the next steps and what the future are going to look like. Because what we're really trying to help parents do, what we're trying to help ourselves do, is figure out not only how do we open the door to their world, but how do we start to step into it
Mhm.
in a way where we'll be invited, we'll be
Exactly.
welcomed.
That's right. Those are the key words. And so let's paint a little picture. What does that look like?
Yeah.
What does it look like to feel kind of on the outside of their world? Is that conversations tend to feel forced or
Yeah.
surface level? We all know how that feels. Every little thing you say turns into tension, or you constantly
Hmm.
feel like you're giving advice somehow. I know I'm there often.
Hmm.
We feel like we're talking at our kids all the time and not with them,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
the reframe to that is that that connection that we're all looking for, it does not come from trying to constantly pull them back into our world and get them to see our perspective. It comes from them allowing us to step into theirs. And I love that you said that, honey, and being invited and welcomed
Yeah.
in. That's really what this is about.
I think we have to remember, and this is hard, but you have to go back to your own teenage years,
Mhm.
your own 20s, when you were autonomous, you were independent, you were trying to figure this stuff out on your own.
Yeah.
And just remember everything that you were going through. And so I'm going to do that for a second because I don't do that very often because we get busy in our own lives. We get busy with worrying about our kids and our jobs and our partners and all this stuff. But when I go back to my teenage years, I was overwhelmed. I had so many dreams and so many goals and so many things, big ideas that I wanted for myself. And I was overwhelmed and I was scared. And I definitely didn't know what some of the next steps were or what the right thing to do. I made good choices. I made a lot of bad choices. And every step of the way, I just remember it was a struggle.
Mhm.
And now I didn't always portray that to my parents, like maybe never, to be very honest, because my parents weren't the type of parents to try to get into my world.
Mhm.
Like we just never had those types of conversations. The door was never opened. And so I was all alone. And I remember being alone and being scared and just wondering if I was ever going to figure this out.
Mhm.
And so that gets me wondering, like, what a difference it would have been to have some people come into my world
Yeah.
so that I could share and be vulnerable with and talk about some of my dreams and my goals and my challenges, things that I was struggling with. What a difference that could have made.
Yeah, but it's like I say often how that pendulum swings so far in the opposite
Yes.
direction in our culture. And it's such a difference. Like we were raised with parents often in our generation who they were not hands-on, and they didn't try
Yes.
to fix us and figure everything out for us and ask us if we had it all together and helping us off to college and all these things. It
Yeah.
wasn't like, I mean, I had a very different trajectory, but when I went into the entertainment world and the modeling industry, my mom was there, but believe it or not,
Yeah.
I did a lot of the work. I got
Yeah.
resourceful and I figured a lot out for myself. And then the pendulum swings, and now here we are, this generation of parents. And I talk about this all the time with
Mhm.
other moms, especially the opposite, doing way too much. And the reason we do this is it's fear, like Chris said, right? We're
Yeah.
trying to fix, we're trying to advise them, we're questioning with an agenda all the time, trying to get them back on track. And the truth is that we're afraid they're not going to figure it out. We're afraid that we're not doing enough to help them figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it moves from control and fixing
Hmm.
and definitely coming across that way because there's a certain energy attached to that. We know how that feels from our perspective, and you got to remember how that can feel from a teen or young adult's perspective.
Yeah.
And therefore, when you notice that door get slammed shut in your face or their defenses come slamming down in front of you, you'll know what was the trigger. It was the direction that you came at them from.
Yeah.
And so, Aaron, why don't we talk a little bit about what getting into their world really means? What are some of the ingredients of their world that we are trying to learn more about and trying to align with? Go ahead.
Yeah, so some of those really important things that are going on with young adults, when we have our own kids, but it's also the kids we coach that, the things they talk about a lot are their fears. They have their own internal environment that they're navigating and often not sharing with their parents or other adults. They share it with us because we have the right questions to ask them. We know
Yeah.
how to be curious and just listen. So their fears around what they're going to do with their life, what's going on with friendships in their life, their
Yeah.
anxiety about the world right now. Kids have so much more access than ever to the news and what's happening and detail, by the way, that they should never know about. The things my
Mhm.
daughter knows about. I'm like, we didn't know any of that stuff when we were
I
teenagers. And so
know
they
it's
have a lot
true.
of real fears around it that they don't even know how to like express or talk about.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, there's friendships, there's those feelings of passion and lust and intimacy and love that they've never experienced before in those first relationships. And then there's fears about their future, college, and what they're supposed to do with their life. A lot of kids feel so much pressure to have it all figured out that I know we didn't have those kind of pressures when we were young adults.
Yeah, I think it's just different. And this really could be a situation where each of our kids is different. In their inner world, there's so many different things going on like this. And sure, yes, they're stressed and they're anxious and they're overwhelmed and they're navigating friendships and relationships for the very first time. All of that can be a lot. And then, like I was saying earlier, you're starting to have all these ideas for your future,
Mhm.
even if they're saying that they don't. And this is something that we've learned through our working with parents and young adults is like everybody thinks about their future. And it usually starts when they're a teenager, you're in high school, and so you get all these ideas, sometimes a big dream. And so you have all of that going on, and then combined with your kid has so many different interests, things that they're into, things that they're passionate about,
Mhm.
things that they're curious about that they may or may not be sharing with you. Or if you do know about it, you only know about it from a very surface level.
Yeah.
And you may not like, by the way, on the surface.
Mhm.
Whether we're talking about movies or music or sports or anything else for that matter, right? You're like, why is he into that? Or why is she into that?
Mhm.
There's probably a really good reason why that they're into that.
And asking, just simply asking. I know, I remember being in my late teens and early 20s in music. Like, I remember music having such an emotional
Yeah.
impact on me. Like, I would get lost in this world of thinking about a guy or a boy or something, or a song would remind me of my dad somehow. And I would
Uh-huh.
get into this really emotional place. And my daughter plays music. Skylar plays music so loud on the way to school. And I'll see her just staring out the window, like really lost in her own internal world.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll let her be, and every now and then I'll say, "What is this song making you think about?" Just very simple, and she'll tell me. She'll
Yeah.
often open up and let me know, but if I wasn't tuned in and or I was worrying what she might be thinking about and it was coming from a place of fear instead of just being curious about what that was igniting for her emotionally. And so sometimes it's just being curious about those interests and the thoughts they're having and what's going on in their internal world instead of coming from a place of fear or judgment or criticism.
Right. Right. Because what you're seeing, a lot of it's on the surface, lazy, unmotivated. Maybe they're on their phone a lot,
Daydreaming.
daydreaming. They're going off on their own. They're doing their own thing. And that's stressful for parents because that's a lot of uncertainty. And especially if that's coming through in grades, you don't approve of their friendships.
Mhm.
They're spending way too much time on their phone. They listen to music that you don't approve of. You know?
Right.
They're making choices that you don't approve of. That can trigger something inside of us to react a certain way. And every single time that we react that certain way, they're going to get pushed further and further and further away,
That's right.
which is the opposite, of course, of what we want.
Mhm.
That's not what we want. We love our kids. We believe in our kids. That's actually why we react. That's why we're taking a certain approach up until this point in time, because we love them. We believe in them. We want the best for them. And we're afraid, like really afraid, that they're not going to achieve that potential,
Mhm.
even though that in itself is our own problem.
Exactly.
That is our own problem. That's our own stuff because that has nothing to do with us.
Mm.
Their happiness and their success and their future, that's not about us.
No, and just because they come from us
Right.
does not mean they are like ours. We don't own them to make them
Yeah.
answer any questions or push them in a direction that we want them to go in. So, what can we do about this, right? How can we reframe some of the things we
Yeah.
might be thinking about? How can we start asking more open ended, curiosity led questions rather
Yeah.
than the drilling questions that's pushing them away? Things like, we really have to figure this out soon.
Mm-hmm.
Something I catch myself saying a lot. Why are you on your phone so much? Why are you spending so much time with so and why aren't you eating well enough? These questions that we tend to come at because we love them, because we care, but they are going to drown you out. They don't
Right.
even hear you anymore after a while.
Yeah.
And none of us want that. And so what are some other questions that we could ask in replace of that? It could be as simple as, what have you been enjoying lately in your
I
life?
love that
What's
one.
been going well for you?
Yeah.
What went well today at school? My daughter doesn't
Yeah.
drive yet. I still pick her up every day. And sometimes I just don't want to ask her, how was your day?
Yeah.
She's like, what went really well today? What did you enjoy
Yeah.
today? What's been frustrating lately for you? Tell me what's been going on with that. What's something that you've been thinking about that you haven't said out loud to me yet in your
Ooh,
life right now?
that's
And
a good
just
one.
giving them room to think about things. And you
That's a good
notice the
one.
difference between that and what are you doing with your life? Why have you been on your phone so much? The questions that they don't want to answer.
Yeah. It's just pure curiosity.
Mm-hmm.
You're not putting them on the spot. And that's, by the way, part of what really makes this approach work is also picking the right time and the right place for these curiosity-based questions.
Mm-hmm.
Meaning you're still not asking these questions in the heat of the moment when they're not in a good mood, when they're on their phone and they're not in a good place. That's not the right time for a conversation like this.
Mm-hmm.
Erin and I talk a lot about the pause. The pause is really important because the pause gives us parents a little bit more of a perspective to see the solutions to a challenge. The challenge being in this case that, you know what, I really want to connect with my kid. That's really important to me. Great. So what are some different ways to do that? I know what some of the questions are that I want to ask, but equally as important is finding the right time and the right environment. And it's probably not right after school.
Yeah.
Or right after they've spent time with friends or something like that, or when they're on their phone. It's a different time and a different place where you're going to be able to connect with them and have a deeper type of conversation.
Yeah. And it's these rituals that Chris and I talk about often on this podcast, which is finding that sacred space time, finding that time to do something that they're interested in. Take them out to their favorite
Yeah.
restaurant. Go for a drive and let maybe first listen to some of their music and then turn it down and say, "Hey, by the way, just been thinking a lot about you lately.
Yeah.
I just really want to know how you're doing. Not surface level, but how are you really doing? How are school going? How are friends? What's going on with you?" Just being vulnerable, being authentic. That's all they want. They don't want to constantly be asked about all the surface level things in their lives. It doesn't interest them.
N-
That's not their world. That's your world.
Yeah. And also, I think from a parent's perspective, is that you're not going to figure all this out in one conversation.
Hmm.
Okay. You guys aren't going to be super connected the first time that you communicate. Really try this.
Yeah.
But what happens is that you get started and you do a little bit, you have a little conversation, and they share a little bit, and you're open minded and you're curious, and they pick up on that. And then you have another conversation and they share a little bit more. And maybe the second or third time, you're also sharing and you're also being vulnerable about what you did in high school, some of the mistakes that you made when you were younger, what some of your dreams and what some of your goals were,
Hmm.
some of your interests. You talk about those things too, because something that I've learned with our kids is that when you share your interests with them, they listen.
Hmm.
Okay, you're not telling them, go do this. We think this is good for you, even though it probably is. You're just sharing that this is something that I'm really into. This plays a really important role in my life. I really enjoy this. And that opens up the space for them to start to think about their interests. Or, hey, I'd like to try that too, because remember, your kids are still learning about themselves. They're still learning their interests and their passions. How do they do that? It's their environment.
Yeah.
All these signals, all these people around them are influencing them. We'd like to be a positive influence in our kids' lives.
Yeah, and that brings us to this next point, which is one of the greatest ways to have influence and the greatest ways to enter their world is to model your own growth, to
Sure.
continue modeling your passions and your purpose, and that you are still growing. Kids don't want a parent who's just advising them all the time.
Right.
They want a parent that they can look up to who's growing and learning and going after their own dreams and goals still in their life, that's not obsessing over them and their future all the time. It takes pressure off of your relationship with your child when you refocus on yourself again and you start coming back home to what are my passions again outside of just being a mom or dad? What really interests me? What new things do I want to get out there and try? And then that's so much more attractive to especially our young adult kids. They don't notice all that stuff as much when they're even younger teens. When they get to be 17, 18, 19 into their 20s, they're watching you in a very different way. And when you are out there rediscovering yourself again and trying new things and going after some of your own passions and goals, you become more attractive to them and they come to you. That's when you get invited in more often. They want to know how you're doing. They're curious about what you're up to. River will do that sometimes. He'll just say, how's business going with Chris? How's the podcast going? What's been going on? He's curious because I don't talk about it all the time because I'm busy focusing on what's
Right.
going on in my own life.
Yeah. It's funny because that kind of gets me thinking like us modeling positive behavior, putting the focus back on ourselves,
Mhm.
pursuing our own passions, our own interests, it becomes this bridge between our world and their world.
Mm,
It's a bridge. It's a way to connect. It's a way to influence, and you don't even have to do it directly. It's just because something that we talk about a lot is just the effect that your environment has on you. And your environment is the way in which you're spending your time, the people you're surrounding yourself with, just the energy. And when us parents, we're focused on ourselves. We're waking up in the morning and we have a great morning routine and we're working out and we're journaling, we're meditating, we're going out for walks, we're spending time with each other, we're modeling a great relationship with our partner, our husband or our wife. That is the energy that is going to strengthen that bridge
mhm.
and really start to feed their world in a lot of different ways with all these ideas and all these possibilities. But most importantly, it's going to make them feel like I feel supported. And I think that's something that ultimately, like, how do we help our kids the most? It's not control. It's not fixing. It's not having all the answers. It's not definitely not yelling. It's figuring out a way to support them in a way that gives them the feeling of independence.
Mhm. Yeah, because I think that's what we're all looking for, right? Is that beautiful balance between letting them have their autonomy, their independence, forge their own path, find their
Yes.
own way, while still knowing that we are still here to guide them. We're
Yes.
meant to influence them. We are not meant to just like hands off because they're 18,
No.
obviously, but we're also not meant to keep treating them like they're 13 or 14
Yeah.
years old still or younger. And so something else that comes from you putting some focus back on yourself again and learning how to have that pause, like Chris said, and have different types of conversation starters that are more curiosity based and connection based, is you learn to become more patient. And when you
Yeah.
can be more patient and you can create that energy, that aura, that present patience, in that space is what I'm trying to say. You give them room to come into your space and say, hey, let me let you into my world. And that's really what we're all looking for. And so I think the patience piece is just so important.
I
And I
agree.
think that's what we struggle with the most as parents. And again, we're coming full circle as we wrap this up, that
Yeah.
it's fear that keeps us in this angst, in this white knuckling approach to like needing to help them figure it out today. They're going to figure it out. They're so much more capable than we ever give them credit for.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's why our generation, honey, has been so much more resilient in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Because by our parents being a little more hands off, we learned that we were capable. We got resourceful.
Right.
And we're not giving our kids enough space to be resourceful and find their own capabilities.
agree.
And that's really what this is about.
Yeah. All right, everybody. We really hope that you enjoyed this conversation as much as we did.
Yeah.
This is near and dear to our hearts because I think this is at the root what we're all trying to accomplish.
Absolutely. And parents, if you are wanting to reconnect with yourself, learn more about what you're passionate about again, get back in touch with some of your dreams and goals, and you want to go deeper into learning how to parent your young adult in a very different way, in a unique perspective, come join us in our new Extraordinary Parent coaching program. It has been a huge success these last few weeks. We have so many parents signing up, and we would absolutely be honored to support you. So there's going to be a link in the show notes to book a discovery call, complimentary discovery call with me and Chris directly, not our team, where we'll chat with you about what's going on with you, what you're looking to accomplish as a parent, and we'll see if it's a good fit.
Yes, we will.
Awesome.
All right. Thanks, everybody. We will see you next episode. Take care.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
We are so thankful for you and your beautiful family and hope you found something inside today's episode that brought you hope, inspiration, and most importantly, a path forward. If you're interested in evolving your relationship, giving your kids the most important gift of personal growth and development, or are a mom looking to reconnect with your confidence and become empowered in all areas of your life, then schedule a discovery call with us today. Our mission is to help as many families as possible find their purpose, and that starts with you. See you in the next episode, my friends.